Welcome back to another episode of Northwoods Whitetails Podcast. I'm your host, Joey Davis. On this week's episode, we're going to do something a little different. We kind of ran out of some time. We hoped to do a bunch of podcasts down at the recent Hunt Stock event, but we didn't get a chance. It was a busy time. Thank you to all of those that stopped in and either bought some merch, bought some Darn Tough, Johnson, Woodman Arms, or just shook our hand and said, good to meet you. Thanks for putting out the content that you guys do. That stuff really means the world to us. We met a lot of great people this weekend, as well as hung out with a lot of friends that we don't get to see very often. For any of you that have not made it to that Hunt Stock event, you should definitely do so next year. Pat Burns and Pat Guyette put on a great show, as well as you get to see everybody, Hal Blood, Rick Labby, all the rest of the Big Woods crew. Northeast Traditions, Jameson Grady, Ridgeline Athlete with Adrian Geyer, Stagger with Adam and Greg, Woolen Mills, Darn Tough, Just Hunt Club. We were all there, and it's good to see guys that you don't get to see but only once, twice a year. We're all in this together, and it's important that all of you know that. This isn't a competition between any other creator. This is to create the next generation, and keep this tradition alive. And I hope all of you realize that. So without further ado, we are going to dive right into this podcast. We hope you guys enjoy. Take care. And we're sitting here with Beaver Dragon and Brent Dragon. How we doing, guys?
You're doing good.
Good. Real good.
So, little backstory. Why don't you guys tell us about little about yourself, real quick? Where you're from, what you do.
Well, I live in Milton, Vermont. Have all my life. I've lived here for 75 years, I guess. And I raced race cars for 42 years and hunted when I wasn't racing race car most of the time. And I just lived to hunt. Mm-hmm. And I've never shot a 200-inch deer, but I keep trying. And I've come close, but not close enough.
Yep.
And I've been all over the country. My son and I, we went to Montana for 13 years in a row out there, and we shot some nice bucks out there. We've been to Kansas. We've been to Iowa. We've been to Ohio, you name it, we've been there, and Saskatchewan, Alberta. But I've had a lot of fun doing what I've done, and I got a few of these on the wall that I've shot, but I still don't have the 200-inch deer.
So did you ever see any great big racks when you were up there?
Oh, my God. The last time I was there, the last time I was in Saskatchewan, I got there, and my guide, we talked with the guide and stuff, and he says, I got a place for you. He says, we're 13 miles from here. He said, we're going to be going by four-wheeler 13 and a half miles tomorrow morning, and tomorrow night I'm going to pick you up, and you're going to ride out 13 and a half miles. It's okay. And it was 30 plus below zero.
What is this country like? Is it like Ontario? What is Saskatchewan?
A lot like it's some like Ontario, not as swampy.
Yeah.
Big woods,
yeah.
Big woods. A lot of beaver. There's some beaver ponds, but everything's froze solid, so you can ride right across. I mean, that cold.
Huh.
But anyways, he had this stand. It was 13 and a half miles in there, and we get to the stand the first day, and he says to me, he says, when you come out tonight, I want you to leave your gun in the tree. We were just in a tree with some canvas around. That's all we had. I had a suit that was good for 100 below, and the good thing I did because I'd have froze to death. But anyways, he said, I want you to leave your gun in the tree tonight. And I said, no, I'm bringing my gun out. He said, ain't nobody going to come in here and steal it, not 13 miles. And I said, I know that. But I said, no, I'm going to leave. I'm going to bring it out. So I did all week long. I'd put it in a soft case, put it on the back of the four-wheeler, and we'd ride out. So it went along the whole week, and I passed bucks up all week long. And there was one nice 8-pointer he was a nice 8-pointer. And I kept passing him up. And I said, no, I'm not going to shoot him. Maybe the last day I might shoot him. Well, it came down to Friday night, and I was going to be getting on the airplane Saturday afternoon. He said, I'm going to take you, Friday night, he says, I'll come get you. And he says, hopefully you got one by then. And yeah, I probably will have. Well, I did it. Well, that Friday night, I could hear the four-wheeler way off in the distance coming to pick me up, and it was starting to get dark. And they had a pile of grain and stuff out about 80, 90 yards in front of me, and I'd seen tons of deer, a lot of deer, but nothing I wanted to shoot. So I'm putting my gun in the soft case, getting ready, thinking, well, he's going to be here in a minute and pick me up. It's dark now, and he's getting closer, and I can see the lights coming through the woods, and he has to go by the bait pile to get to me. And he drives up to the bait pile, toward the bait pile, and he stops. And I didn't pay any attention. I knew he was down there. I said, well, must be he's going to rebait the pile. Well, he sat there, and finally he come up through. And he says to me, why didn't you shoot that deer? I said, shoot what deer? He says, I had my lights right on the biggest deer I've seen, he says, for 20 years, he said, down on that bait pile tonight. He said, he was right there, and I put my lights on him so you'd shoot him. I said, well, I saw a deer come in, but it was dark before you even got there, and I couldn't tell if it had horns or not. It was too dark. He says, this thing is huge. And he says, tomorrow's your last day. I said, yeah, it is. He says, you want to go another place? I got some other stands where you can go and shoot a buck. I said, no. I said, I'll come back here. He says, okay. And I said, I'll tell you what. I said, by 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, I'll have a deer. How do you know that? I said, there's an 8-pointer here I would shoot tomorrow. And so he says, you're sure? I said, yeah. I said, okay. So he drops me off in the dark the next morning, Saturday morning, and I left it with him. I said, if you don't hear from me by 11 o'clock, come get me. But I said, by 9 o'clock, I'll have a deer. 10 minutes to 9, I got 2 bucks down on the pile. One's a spike horn. He'd been there all week long, and he could flop any big deer, tip him over just like nothing. How he did it, I don't know. And he wasn't scared of nobody. He was on the pile, and there was a 5-pointer on the pile with him. And all of a sudden, they picked their heads up, and they looked like that, and they both shot right out of there. I said, something big has got to be coming. So I stuck my gun out through the canvas and waited. In came that same deer from the night before. Oh, my God. Well over 200, that's all I can say is it's well over 200 inches. So I let him get up to the pile. He calmed down. He starts feeding. I said, well, this is going to be easy. Boom, I shoot. And no sign of hitting him. He just whirls and he's gone where he come from. Boy, I don't understand this. So I get down and I go over by the pile. I can't find any blood. Of course, it looks like a barnyard. There's been so many deer there. And I can't find any blood. So I went in the direction that he went, and then I started making circles, big circles. Never found no blood. So I called the outfitter, and I said, I just shot at that deer that I think you saw last night. And I said, there ain't no way I missed it, but I said, I can't find him. I'll be right out, he says, and we'll find him. Well, being right out was like 3/4 of an hour before he got there. So I kept looking for him some more, and I didn't find him. So I went back by the pile, looked to see if I could find where my bullet hit, and I couldn't see that either. So I might as well go get back in the stand. So I walked back to the stand, which is 90 yards away, get up in the stand. I no more than sit down, and I look at the pile, and there's an 8-pointer standing on the pile. I said, he had to have been standing there watching me. And I thought I was all wound up about that big one, and I said, that's got to be the same one. So if I missed the first one, I shot over him, so I'm going to shoot under this guy and see what happens. So I shot for the very bottom of his belly, I broke his back. And down it went. And so I get down, I go over there. It's not even the same 8-pointer. So it's a smaller one. It was a nice 8-pointer, but it wasn't a nice 8-pointer. So I get over there, and oh, Jesus, now what am I going to do now? So pretty soon I hear him coming, and he gets over there, and he said, he said, you found your deer. I said, no. I said, well, what's that deer? I said, I shot him after I talked to you.
Was.
You can't shoot two, he said. I said, I don't think I shot two. He said, what do you mean? I said, I don't think I hit the first one. Well, we're going to find out. So he looks around, and finally he finds my bullet hole, long ways from the pile. And he went looking for the deer, and you didn't hit that deer, I guess. So he says, you remember what I told you the first day about leaving your gun in the tree? I said, yes, I do. He said, we're going to take your gun, and we're going to shoot it, and we're going to find out if it was you or the gun. Okay. And so we put a target up at 40 yards. I missed it by that much, over the top of it. The scope was knocked just about off the gun. Riding, pounding for 13 miles every day.
Yeah.
I should have listened, but I did it, and it cost me a big deer.
No kidding. This week we are joined with Del Green and his wife, Nancy Green. You guys may have heard of Del Green. He's wrote a book, Tall Tines and Wide Racks. It was released quite some time ago. There's a good chance if you hunt the North, you know Del. You've heard about him. He is a very influential person through the state of Vermont. He'll tell you a little bit about some of the things that he has done for the camp owners of the Northeast Kingdom and creating muzzleloader season and amongst many other things. I am joined this week by Brent Dragon, and here you go.
It's the one out over the desk out there with the little drop tine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was in Maine. And I went up on this mountain, Thrasher Peaks. And I picked up a track and I took it for a ways. And we had a lot of snow, like 5 or 6 inches of new snow on top of 4 or 5. And I cut across the mountain. It's hard to find a track that day because, they nestle down that night. So you might as well beat-foot it until you find something. And I picked up his track with a little snow in it coming down. Actually, there's a picture of a hooking beside that deer out there. And he hooked, and the hooking's on top of the snow a little. Now we're going to have some fun. So he goes downhill, and he goes out in this huge clear cut. And so I go beat-footing it out through there, and I had put him off, and he'd gone downhill and headed towards a small river. And in the course of time, I put him across the river, and I've always felt, and I might be wrong, but coyotes don't like water, and they don't like to cross it, and very, very seldom. And I think a doe brings her young ones up real young to realize Mama's going across this water for a reason. Remember the picture, the video of Matt had with the doe in the water and the coyote, and the doe would go over here and the coyote would go on the shore, back and forth, back and forth.
No kidding.
Yeah, and they won't go in.
Yeah.
At least I feel that.
That's their defense.
Yeah.
The coyotes won't.
Yeah.
Yep.
But maybe when the deer crosses that water, he's trying to get rid of me now, So after a while, if he calmed down, they're liable to come back across the river because they want to be where they want to be. Well, it did. So I'm looking for the tracks, I never found it on the other side. So you know how they go down the river a ways? Mm-hmm. Well, I turn around and I go back up. Oh, no. Okay. So finally I cross the river where I find a track. I go down for quite a little ways, and it goes back across the river. 5 times. The 5th time it crossed, it started up this mountain, and there was a logging road half across it. And I got up to that, and it's like 4:15, and I'm a long, long ways from my truck. And so I see where he ran across the road, but he walked across the road, and he's walking uphill. But all my fooling around down below, he's had 2 hours to go find a good spot. So I decide that I can't get him today, so I might as well head out. I'm standing on this road. It's not the short way to my truck, but at least I'm not going through the woods. So I start to leave. Oh, by the way, it started raining, a light rain. Oh. And I stopped, and now you'll know, before we go any farther, that I'm a little screwy, you know. I look up at the deer, and I hollered up, "Okay, big boy, you win today, but tomorrow, enjoy your evening. Tomorrow is your end of your life."
That's awesome.
And I holler that, and I start walking away, and then I stop. Del, you tell everybody never quit. And I got another 30 minutes. I go back to the track, took my coat off, laid my fanny pack down, headed up in, saw the spotlight, dropped down, because I thought maybe he'd see me, but I don't think he had. And I made a loop and came in behind him, and I shot him in his bed.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
That's a good story. That's really good.
It's kind of cool because,
Yeah.
oh my God, I dressed it out. I drag it down a ways, but not right to the road. It's dark, very dark. I walk the roads. I finally get about 2 miles to, well, we'll tell you, Budweiser Brook. When you're scouting, sometimes it's not stupid to put a 6-pack of beer in a little brook that you're going to cross on your way back. In the course of season, there's nothing against the law about having a beer on your way back to the truck, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty happy.
Just don't throw the cap away.
No.
No, put it in your pocket.
Oh,
Oh, I got to tell him
That's
that.
another story.
So I get back to my truck, and I drive a long ways back to the camp. And have you ever met my friend Coon Fortin?
I have.
You
Yes.
have?
Yes.
Well,
Very good guy.
Yeah. Nice guy to have around if you want a 200-pound deer thrown in the back of your truck, you know. So I get back to camp, and we have this thing at camp, 7 o'clock. If you're not back, we go look for you. And everybody kind of likes to know where you're going that day within reason, you know. So I get back to camp, and it's about 10 past 7, and everybody's going out the door. They're dressed, and they're headed up to where they think I am. And so they're happy. They haven't got to go traipse around. Well, you get one? I said, yeah. And Coon always goes, the knife. Let me see the knife. You know, it's got some blood on
yep.
it. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that son of a bitch does. So, wow, we're all dressed. We got to go get it. I said, I am not going back there tonight. I said, my T-shirt's wrapped around his head. I'm not going back. We're getting a deer. I said, oh, Jesus. So we go back. We get there, and I've had a bad ankle for a long time, and I push myself to the point when you stop, you're hurting. And I just said, I can't go up there. I'll just sit here. Yeah. Well, they start to go, and then turn around. And Coon said, you put your tag on it? I said, no, I didn't. Well, give me the tag, you know. So anyway, they get the deer out, and everybody's happy. But pretty good story about never giving up.
Yeah.
Although I've done that a lot of times. I walked home in the dark like you have. So
Yeah. Yeah. Determination.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think you can't. I mean, if you're a quitter, you won't excel at too many things, even work.
Yeah.
And so Nancy just thought of I think you'll really like this. It's not much about killing a deer, but about the hunt.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm up in Maine at, where did we stay?
Wilson's Mills.
Oh, Pittston Farm.
Oh, Piston Farm? Was
Yeah.
that Piston? No, it wasn't. Was
No.
it?
Yeah, Pittston Farm, which you've heard of.
Oh, yeah.
So we hunted up there for quite a few years. Rented the first cabin he ever rented out. Didn't even have any. I talked him into it. There was no kitchen. So salt and pepper shaker. Remember that. So the year before, I found a place that was a hot place for deer moving. If you got no snow, then I'm a good one for tree stands and blinds. I kind of like them the last hour, hour and a half of the day. And I never hunt where they are, so I would go to where it is. So this is quite a few years ago. So I got I got my backpack and some little boards for steps and some screws and a screw gun and enough boards to make a little sit in a tree stand, which might be frowned upon by some wardens. So I hike up in a long ways, and I get there, and I build me a little tree stand. That I get back to my truck, it's about 12:30, and we were staying in a campground then. No,
By the river.
yeah,
That's where we always stayed.
yeah.
Ledbetter Falls.
You're right. So anyway, hunting season, I'm going in there, but it's not hunting season yet. So I come walking back out, get to my truck. I had a cap on my truck at the time. I open the cap, drop the tailgate, turn around and get my backpack off. Oh, there's my cooler. So I open up a cooler and I take a beer out, take a cap off, put it in my pocket for some reason. And then next thing I know, there's a guy standing behind me. He's about 6'15". This guy is huge, and it's a warden. How you doing? Okay. What you been up to? Oh, just scouting around. He said, yeah. He said, that partridge in the corner there. Oh, by the way, it's Sunday. When did you harvest that? And I don't think in my life I ever forgot to take a partridge out at night, and I got back and didn't and left it in the truck. Embarrassing, but I did. So it was cold and hard, so okay, let's go around the front of the vehicle. So we go around, and he said, why don't you open the door there and hand me that shotgun? Well, I think in Maine the gun can't be in the cab, and now I know my hunting in Maine is done for 2 years anyway, and so I pull a gun out, and it's Ithaca 20 gauge, and okay, put that back. He said, well, let's go back to the back of the truck there. So we walk back, and this warden's pickup pulls up with a young warden that I think he was training, maybe. So he gets out, and they confer. And then he comes back to me and asks me a few questions, and where you're staying, and how often do you hunt in Maine and stuff, just small talk. And so he said, well, I'm sure you got a license. Yeah, so I give him my license, and the young warden goes back to his vehicle to check on it. And the big guy says, well, you want a sandwich? I said, no, thanks. And he said, hey, don't let this bother you. I said, I make a hell of a sandwich. I said, no. He said, you ever hear of Dagwood? I said, yeah. He said, I make them like that. And I got choices. Where else in the North Maine woods you get choices? What do you want for ham or turkey today? And I said, no, thank you. He said, don't let this spoil your day. I said, well, I think it's going to spoil more than that. And, well, you never know. Well, suit yourself. So he goes to the back of that truck, and he's making a sandwich, and then I'm just standing there very upset with myself. Mostly the gun deal. So it's pretty obvious what I was doing in my backpack. That now I got a screw gun. I wasn't hunting. So pretty soon they walk back together, and the guy's eating this big sandwich, And the other guy, the rookie, is not much bigger than I. And you guys remember the old little handbooks we had you could put in your pocket?
Mm-hmm. I do.
What's wrong with what today, huh? Everything you needed was in there.
It was.
But the young warden says, here, I'm going to give you one of these. He said, next time you're out, how'd that go? You're out scouting around, and you knock down a partridge, why don't you take care of it properly? I said, yes, sir. And he said, and he hands me another one, same thing. He said, why don't you take this one? And, if you're sitting in the car and it's raining and, nothing better to do, why don't you read this one? I said, yeah, okay. He gives me a third one. And he says, when you're sitting in your tree stand, why don't you read this one? He knew, because the other guy must have told him. And I said, okay. He said, if we took a hike up to that tree stand, we might not like it, huh? I said, no, you wouldn't. Okay. He said, we're not brilliant people, but a hang-on doesn't need screws. I said, no. Okay. He said, well, you have a good day. And I'd almost fall on the ground. And he turned around and walked back to the truck, which was a touch from me. And I'm just shocked. I can't believe I got a break like this, especially the gun deal.
Mm-hmm.
I've broken 2 laws here. And I said, hey, you guys, I don't know what to say. I'm stuttering I said, except thank you. I guess just thank you. So the big guy goes, he said, a guy don't even throw a beer cap away in the woods. He ain't all bad.
No kidding. Yeah.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yes. My dad was the head of the state police here, and I came home and I told him this story, and I said, Dad, I got to get a hold of this guy's boss, a superior in Augusta or something, and tell him what this. My dad goes, no, don't do that. You know why?
Yeah.
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 Said, ooh, okay, Del.
Get in trouble for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a nice, one of my better stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
What a nice guy.
Yep.
He knew he taught me more then.
Mm-hmm.
than
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
There's never been a screw gun in my truck again.
Ever since. I bet.
That's a pretty good story. Today's guest is Duane Merrill, 81-year-old gentleman out of Vermont who has hunted all over Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, and the Adirondacks. He's got a lot of words of wisdom. We're going to dive right into this. Here we go. Now, have you hunted New Hampshire?
I hunted New Hampshire in 1965, 66, 67, and I shot a 10-pointer that went 212.
Yeah.
It's the only one I shot in New Hampshire that was a buck, and I did not get the buck. I shot the buck, and another guy found him.
No kidding.
Lucky he did, too, and it was good.
Yeah.
The guy, he found the buck, and it was a nice buck, and last day of the season, and it was a good buck, lucky.
Yeah.
But I killed him dead, but I didn't get him, and I didn't follow him far enough, and that was the thing. And he didn't go that far, but I didn't get him. And then the one in the Adirondacks, the one buck I shot over 200 there, dressed 226, was a heck of a story. I'd been hunting Maine with my cousin Kurt and his boy Jay, and we decided to go hunt the Adirondacks. We shot some bucks in Maine. I think we shot 5-6 bucks, whatever. And we decided to go to the Adirondacks. And my brother-in-law grew up hunting in the Adirondacks, so he told me a place to go, and down on the high peaks, but down south. So we drove over. We got there, 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. And we just come from Maine. We're tired, but we had to go up over this mountain on a trail, down the backside, and it was on the headwaters of the Hudson River. We were way, way up on the headwaters. And my brother-in-law went in there every year and camped, and he had a camp on the south side of the Hudson River that he crossed with a cable. Him and actually the forest warden had put a cable up years ago. Steel cable low and one above. Very dangerous if you've carried your backpack and sleeping bag across it. I always took my belt out, hooked it over that, so I didn't fall in that freaking river. It was a good river. But so any day, I said, Kurt, let's go over here. I know about it. It's good hunting, but we're not going to cross the river. We were all tired. We decided we're not doing that. So they came over the backside of this mountain. they walked the trail and I did. There was a beaver pond that came right up to the trail with a big beaver dam that was part of that trail. You know how you get those quarter-mile beaver ponds? And the trail ran right through the dam, right on the edge. So I went out past the beaver pond. I went quite a ways. And there was snow on the ground, but just not good snow. And I went out and I was on the north side of the Hudson River. And I decided to go up this mountain and up on this hill. And I went up on the hill and worked up the hill and still in the morning, but later in the morning. And I picked up a buck track. I said, it's a pretty good buck track. And followed him 300 yards, maybe 400 yards, just luck. And I looked up and he was standing probably 150 yards from me, 125 yards. And it was he was standing on an angle where I could not shoot the shoulder good. But I knew that, I'm from one that usually takes a shot. There's a deer right there, right in the grass.
Oh, yeah.
See
There
it?
is. Yep.
Stand up, you can see it.
Yeah, you can see the back of it.
See her standing right there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's interrupting the podcast. It's not deer season here, but we're looking at it.
Wonder if she got a fawn right there.
She's got twin fawns, I believe.
Does she?
I've seen them out twice.
When I left my place, there was twin fawns out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think she's got twin fawns. They love to lay in that grass. They feel very secure in it. And I never cut it I'll probably cut it within a week, but I won't cut the whole thing. I'll cut half of it. Mm-hmm. So they come down every night and lay in that grass. And they watch us in the house. If you walk in there, you're going to see beds all over.
Yeah, they love those warm season grasses.
So anyway, I went up there and I didn't have a good shot at that buck, but it was good enough he's standing still and I'm standing still. And I said, I better take this shot. So I pulled up, aimed as far as I could, shot it on the angle, and he bolted out of there. And he tore off to my right. And there was softwood on my right, and I couldn't see him. So I went up there, looked all over. Look at the doe. She's looking at me right now. She sees us in here, probably hears us. Yeah, she's very aware now. So anyway, I looked. I couldn't find the deer. I see his track, and I followed it a little back, and it disappeared. But he bled just a little speck, a little speck, a little speck. And I can tell you from many experiences shooting deer, you want to follow them and follow them, follow everything, because the deer may not always bleed. And you may find them 200 yards, you may find them a quarter of a mile. You never know. Even with these modern guns punching holes in them. But that deer just had specks on the ground, but he turned and went downhill immediately. When a deer turns and goes downhill like that, and I've hit him, I'm pretty sure that deer is hurt. So I stayed on the deer, followed him, and he went downhill. And as we got closer to the Hudson, it got warmer and the snow melted. And I was on my hands and knees looking for the blood and sign. And I kept working all the way down and kept slanting off back to the east, going along. And I really had a hard time tracking him. Nothing to track. I'd go back and I go, he probably went this way. So I'd walk and go that way. And I keep circling it. You got to circle the area. Look for it came out. I'd go back, take the next route I thought, and I kept going. I got down, I was close to the river, and the big thicket here. And I walked around the thicket. It was so thick that you wouldn't go into it. And I walked around the thicket, and I said, no tracks on the other side that I could find. And the trail was right there, the trail that came along the Hudson that I'd come in on. And I looked it all over, and I said, which I've seen before, he's got to be in that thicket. So I went back around my track to the top of the thicket, walked in. He was dead in the thicket. And what happened to him, the bullet hit him right here on the back leg, and it hit that artery. But it didn't let the artery go. He bled all the way down, and it must have hurt him.
Yeah.
been a severe wound. But where he bedded, the whole thing let go.
Huh.
And so the whole area was all blood,
Yeah.
deader than a hammer.
I've seen it before where it.
Yep. Followed that deer. And if you're not an experienced deer hunter, you've got to be persistent. Everybody knows it. When you track a deer, you got to go back and think like that. And the thing about that deer was I was 2 miles or so in the woods, and I had a big mountain in front of me, and it was like 4:30. And so I dragged him on the trail, got him over to a tree, and I pulled him up in the tree. I worked as hard as I could. I got the rope up over. I got him up. He was standing on the back legs at least, and I got him up over. And I was so dead tired because we'd just come from Maine hunting. We hadn't taken a day off and rested. So, and when I shot, our signal back then, if I shot a deer and they weren't within whistling or hooting distance, was to shoot 3 shots, 1 minute apart, turn your gun, and shoot into a tree, but with the muzzle up. So the bullet didn't go anywhere, but your sound carried as far as possible. We weren't using any GPSs, walkie-talkies, none of that stuff. And nobody came. I shot my 3 shots, and my cousin Kurt didn't come, and Jay, his boy, is a big husky boy. He didn't come either. So I said, all right. I walked out, back over, cross this brook, cross the Beaver Dam, and up the mountain, down the other side to the highway. And I got there and said, you guys didn't come when I shot. Well, it was pretty late, we're tired, excuses. And I could tell they were going, I said, well, I shot a good buck in there. He doesn't have great horns. He's 9 points, but he's over 200. And I said, I've read about these stories over here, and my brother-in-law has told me. Now, where he shoots his deer, down on the south side of the Hudson, they skin them all out. They quarter them up. They put them on a backpack, and they take just the meat out. And you can do that in New York. You've got 7 days to report it. You can actually call the reporting into the thing, or you can mail it in. So I said, we're going to have a job with this one. So I said, what we got to do? I said, I know there's some people over here that pack deer out on horseback. And I said, one thing, I could use a beer right now, Kurt. And he said, he could use one too. So, and if you know New York State, we got on Route 9, I believe it is, and we headed north. And in New York State, there's a lot of people in these small towns that have in their living room a sign that says Budweiser or Schlitz or whatever, right in the living room. And they have a bar in the living room. So the first place we came to had one of the signs in the living room. I said, pull it in here. So we go in, we sit down. We haven't eaten all day. And I said, the lady came over and we ordered our beer. And we each ordered a hamburger. And I said, God, we got some food. Got something to eat. And there was a couple guys sitting on the other side of the bar, like from here to there. And we're talking. And I said, you guys don't know anybody that's got a horse that could pull out a deer for us? And they said, where have you got it? I told them the mountain. I shot it on the backside. Oh, I said, we know that place well. Our boss takes hunters in there. He's got a horse. And he's home right now, but he might do it for you. He said, we work on his crew. I said, what do you guys do? We said, oh, we cut right away. We cut, power line right aways. But he lives just down the road. I said, you'd mind if we went down there? He said, hell no. Go down and see him and talk to him. And he's got the horse and he takes hunters in. So now, by the time we got up there, it was, 8:30, 9 o'clock. And then we get a hold of him. We go down to his house. It's probably 9 o'clock at night, 9:30, whatever. It's getting late and we're tired. So we knock on the door. He comes to the door, nice guy. We talked to him. We said, shot a deer way up there, back in. And I said, we're wondering if you would rent your horse and go up and pull it out for us. I said, we're some tired. And we can hardly do another step today. And he said, well, you're going to have to wait. He said, my wife's gone grocery shopping. She should be back in an hour or so. And then he said, we could go and get the deer. I said, what do you mean, go and get the deer? He said, well, I got my crew working tomorrow. We got to go tonight. And I said, tonight? He said, yep. He said, I can do it tonight. He said, I'll meet you up there at that landing at 11 o'clock. And I looked at Kurt, and his boy Jay said, I ain't going up there. I'm going to get a motel room. So we went, got a motel room, and Kurt and I went up there at 11 o'clock, and he comes up, and he's got a big old workhorse. And we're looking at the workhorse, and we're going, oh. So he gets on a horse, unloaded and everything, pulls it out, and comes up, and I said to him, he said, I got a Coleman lantern. He said, we're going to need that. And I said, good. I said, we don't have one with us. We got our flashlights, and that's it. And he said, well, I got the Coleman lantern. He said, one of you is going to walk in front of the horse with a Coleman lantern. I said, any possibility that we could ride the horse in? Because it is a big workhorse, and we're paying for it. And because I hadn't told you that part. I tried $100. and in our condition, we were willing to pay the $100.
Best $100 you ever spent.
Yeah. So he said, no. He says, I haven't worked the horse since August when we hayed. So he said, I don't want to put a lot of stress on the horse right now. And I'm going, that's like a 1,500-pound animal. How stressful are two tired out hunters on that horse? I said, no, don't want to do that. He said, we got to go up over that mountain, down that terrain. It's kind of slippery. He said, guys might fall off or something. So he said, get one eye in the front with a lantern. And he said, I'm going to get in the back with the reins. Had long reins. He was on the back of the horse. And he said, I got to put a blanket over the horse's head. I'm a little worried when we get near the deer that he's going to smell blood and he might act up. I said, okay, all right. So we head out. Kurt's got the lantern. I got the blanket. Keep trying to keep it on the horse's head. Of course, we're only like 2 miles from the deer. And we go along. We get up over the mountain, down the backside. We go along and we come to the beaver pond. And the trail, as I told you, went right on the edge of the beaver pond. The beaver pond, you know how they put all their stuff like this and the water's on the other side. And they do a great job at building a dam. Well, the trail had gone right through there. And, of course, they had built the dam right there. So we're walking the horse through there. Guess what? The horse falls down through the dam on a spot, and he's down on his front shoulder, broken through the dam. Right there. He's got 3 legs. He's down like that. And we're looking at everybody, and we're going, oh, my God. We've got this horse.
Stuck.
We hope he hasn't broke his leg. And we don't have a gun.
Oh, boy.
We're looking at this situation not in favorable terms. And I'm looking at him. We go over and we go, we could try, but we could try to lift him. So we all get around him. And this guy's a pretty rugged guy. And Kurt and I get on him. And we're trying to get him up out of there. And we fool around. And finally, lo and behold, he pulls his leg up. He gets up out of there. His other legs are good. And he steps forward. And he's okay. And we'd wasted like an hour. It's like 1:30 in the morning now. And we go, oh, my God. So we walk along. Here comes a bunny rabbit. You can't see it through that bench, but it's coming right head on to me. It's going to eat some nice clover. Anyway, the deer's hung in the tree. We get to the deer. We got the deer's the blanket wrapped around the horse's head. He's not bad. We get the deer and we put it right over the horse. And the only thing the horse has on it for gear is the horse's collar and the reins going back. No pack saddle, no other harness, just the reins, a halter, and you know how workhorse's collar is. You know, it's made for pulling on that. But so we tie the deer to the collar. We got the horns hanging down, the ass over here, and we got those little rings on the collar, and we tie it to it. And we turn, get him going, and the only problem is all the way back out, the horse, the way he walked, the deer would slide either off one way or the other way. So we walked all the way back out. I'm with my shoulder on him on one side, sliding him back up. Kurt's on the other side, sliding the deer back up. And we got the lantern, trying to hold the lantern, one of us out here. And we got out of the woods, I don't know, it was 2:30 in the morning, some god-awful time. And that was the story of my first 200-pound buck in New York that almost killed us.
No one can save you, you better run.